Hello friends, welcome to Easy Learning Economics. This is Dr. Caval. In the previous lecture, we learned in detail about monetary policy. How does monetary policy function under fixed and flexible exchange rate system? Here we are going to learn about fiscal policy. In this lecture, we shall learn that what are the objectives of fiscal policy and what are the tools and techniques which the government uses to run the fiscal policy, and what are the types of fiscal policy, and what are the canons of government expenditure. So in this lecture we shall cover all these things. What is fiscal policy and who introduced this concept? The fiscal policy idea was introduced by John Maynard Keynes during Great Depression 1930 to reduce unemployment. During Great Depression, when the unemployment remained for several years, the John Maynard Keynes introduced this policy to control unemployment. The fiscal policy is also known as budgetary policy. Basically, fiscal policy relates with the government expenditure and government revenue policies. The government expenditure include the development and non-development expenditure. Non-development expenditure include the defense, interest rate. The government attempts to make an expenditure in a manner that assures the increased employment, productive efficiency and rise in revenue in the long run. The revenue receipts include the tax and non-tax sources of revenue. What are the objectives of fiscal policy? Fiscal policy is the set of measures taken by the government through fiscal tools of tax, government spending, transfer payments to achieve the macroeconomic objectives of full employment, resource mobilization, resource allocation, maintenance of economic stability, income redistribution and economic growth in the economy. This is the list of the objectives of fiscal policy which the government achieves by running the fiscal policy. What are the types of fiscal policy? Basically, fiscal policy is of two types. Number one is the expansionary fiscal policy. Under expansionary fiscal policy, to increase an aggregate demand, taxes are reduced and government expenditure is increased. That results budget deficit that causes the government to borrow funds, and finally debt burden increases. During recession period, the expansionary fiscal policy reduces unemployment but could increase inflation in the economy, while under contractionary fiscal policy, the government levies more taxes than it spends. During boom period, contractionary fiscal policy reduces inflation but can increase unemployment. Fiscal policy has a key role in deep recession, liquidity trap period when the monetary policy remains ineffective. What are the tools? What are the measures of fiscal policy? How does fiscal policy function? Fiscal policy run through major two tools, that are government expenditure and taxes. The government makes an expenditure on labor intensive projects and does adjustment in the development and non-development expenditure and marks the best use of available resources that help in achieving the goal of full employment and resource allocation. Another tool of fiscal policy is the taxes. Taxation system has a key role in achieving the goal of fiscal policy. The import and export duties help in stabilizing the domestic prices and reducing inflationary pressure in the economy. Progressive taxes help in reducing income inequalities among different sectors and regions of the economy. What are the canons of government expenditure? So the canons of government expenditure means the principle of government expenditure are rules for making expenditure on the government side. So before making an expenditure, the government must consider the canons of expenditure. The canon of benefit means the government expenditure must promote the maximum advantage of society with utmost care. The canon of economy, it means the government expenditure should reduce the extravagance and waste of all types. The canon of sanction, an amount must be sanctioned before it is spent. The canon of elasticity and income equality, the government can vary expenditure as per the need and demand, and expenditure reduce income inequalities. So these are the rules on the basis of which the government run the fiscal policy or makes an expenditure keeping in these rules. How can we define in a short way the fiscal policy? So we can say that fiscal policy is run by the government using fiscal tools including government purchases, transfer payments, taxes and borrowing to influence aggregate economic activity. Keywords that can be helpful to define fiscal policy include the government expenditure and revenue policies, as we discussed that the fiscal policy is the policy regarding the government revenues and expenditure, and the tax and non-tax revenue sources, objectives, expansionary and contractionary canons of government expenditure. So these words I think would be helpful to define the fiscal policy in detail. So I hope this would be clear to all of you. If you have any queries or comments, let me know in the comment section. Thanks for watching.